Marco Musso has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for the drunk driving crash that killed those 3 kids and their grandfather in Vaughan. Banned from driving from 12 years once he does get out. Looks like with time served, good behavior and such, he'll be eligible for parole with a third of the sentence served, so in the area of 3.5 years. That's what it looks like he will serve, and then, of course, after that, beginning a 12-year ban on driving. Your thoughts? Does the crime and the time fit? Does the time fit the crime? Does the crime fit the time? 905-645-3221, star 9900 on your cell. Rena writes, outrageous. This should be 10 years for every life taken. Feel sorry for the family of those people. No justice for them. Rob says, next move, hurt them in the pocketbook. I wouldn't think any less of the Neville Lake family if they took large sums of money from the Musso family. And it goes on from there. Once again, we see the Canadian justice system as a total farce. The system shows more sympathy for the perpetrator than the victims. Musso should have received a minimum of 5 years for each death he caused and received a total of 20 years and a ban from driving forever. I hope MAD gets on their high horse and raises bloody blue murder about this, says Jack. Joining us now is Gary Dierenfeld, social worker, yoursocialworker.com. He is with us now. Good afternoon, Gary. How are you today?
Good, Scott. Great to be with you.
Thank you for
taking the
time. How do people justify this sentence? Is everybody just looking for vengeance here?
Well, certainly we want to feel that justice is done, and when you tally up 4 lives against, a sentence of 12 years, but, 10 years time served, good behavior, parole, he's out in 3 years, there's just no equivalency there, and people are looking for equivalency.
So is it wrong for them to call for more? Is that...
I don't think it's wrong for them to call for more. You're never going to get equivalency when a drunk driver snuffs out 4 other lives and causes other injury and all the associated grief. There's no such thing. And the part is that the reason they went for a longer sentence, this 10 years, is also because they're looking for the deterrent effect in this, thinking that's preventative. The truth of the matter is, the way society works, Scott, we're not too keen on prevention. We always get up in the morning and think it's not going to be me, it's going to be the other guy. So if anything, if there's any benefit to a longer sentence, it keeps someone who could be dangerous away from us for a longer time.
Do people view this differently because of the wealth involved with the Musso family?
They may view this differently because of their vast wealth, thinking that, what a spoiled, indulged person. So there may be that kind of animosity attached to that. I think the grieving parents did a good job, quite frankly. They didn't want to hear his apology, and, you just don't get a sense that any of that was their issue. Their issue is the loss of their family.
So how do they move on? Because obviously they've been wrapped up in this, in the trial proceedings, and that slows closure down. What happens now for them?
Well, Viktor Frankl was an author that came out of the concentration camps from World War II, and he talks about man's search for meaning. So how do we find meaning in such atrocities and awful life experiences? This family, the phrase moving on, I don't think will apply to them. You don't move on, but is there a way to integrate this experience such that you can continue to live your life? That will take considerable time, effort, and work on their part. Sometimes one finds meaning in their life by facilitating with a cause to address the issues that one has experienced. So maybe they'll do something like that, but that's up to them, and it remains to be seen.
What should the rest of us take away from this? Because obviously, and why do you think this has struck a chord with everyone the way it has?
Well, it struck a chord because it was an everyday family, and it was a very wealthy family. And, they're looking at the fact that it keeps getting mentioned that he was flying back from a bachelor party on the company private jet, that, the picture that's shown of him in the media is often, I think, in his, it looks like a Ferrari. I don't know if it's a Ferrari, but a high-end automobile. So they're pitching the socioeconomic differences between these folks and the fact that 4 people died in one fell swoop for his stupidity. So this captures all of our attention. It causes us all to feel vulnerable when these things can happen in a sense so randomly, although it's not random if you choose to drink and drive.
Interesting comment on Facebook here. Mike writes, truth be known, I could have easily caused a tragedy like this many times when I was in my 20s and early 30s. It's so fortunate I didn't hurt or kill any innocent victims because of my irresponsible drinking and driving back then. That's pretty interesting.
It is. And, there's, what's that expression, where but for the grace of God go I, and the other one, he who is without sin, cast the first stone. So we can all reflect on our own stupidity. You and I both, I love you, but you and I both were stupid teenagers at one point and stupid young adults at another point.
Yeah.
And somehow or other we managed to get through unscathed. This points out that not everyone does, and for goodness sakes, don't play those kind of odds.
How does, and I almost feel guilty asking this simply because people want to focus, it seems, on the victims of this crime and not the accused, but there's 2 families' lives who have been greatly altered here. Yes. How does the Muzo family handle this? And again, I don't mean to profess sympathy, but there's 2 sides to this tragedy.
I got to tell you, I was impressed from the get-go that rather than fighting the charges, they quickly went to a guilty plea. And so that is how you cope. You don't run from this. You're going to have to take it head on and deal with that sense of shame, blame, and embarrassment. And, my heart goes out to them as well because they will be devastated as a family. There is no, in a sense, returning for this. Their son is now a pariah for life unless he finds some way to reform himself and continues to, in a sense, fall on his sword day after day. So it's going to be a long, messy haul for the Muzo family as well. Is there, you said you can't change things, it is what it is, you live with this, you don't move on per se. Is there a timeline? People often say a year. You have to go through every anniversary, every holiday, every what have you, every birthday in order to get that first year out of the way. Is that significant, or is it all the same? Yeah, the first year is significant, but here's the rub. You have children at different ages of development. So in 5 years, you're going to be saying, well, wait a minute, this one would have been entering into elementary school, that one would have been entering into middle school, this one would have been entering high school. And so you live developmentally. Your kids continue to grow and develop in your mind. They're not just frozen as those little ones. So you re-experience the injury of the loss when you consider where those children and grandfather would have been developmentally. So it's not something that you get over per se, and there will be a reigniting of the tragedy at many, many, many points throughout the survivors' lives.
I was talking to Carol Todd last week. She's the mother of Amanda Todd, who took her life after cyberbullying. The Rehtaeh Parsons, very similar at the same time. She does a lot of advocacy work, anti-bullying, this sort of thing, travels across the country speaking. Does that help, or does that keep the wound open?
Both. It does help because, that's part of the Viktor Frankl thing, finding meaning in one's suffering, finding meaning in one's terrible experiences. So I doubt that that Amanda Todd's mom will necessarily do that forever, but as a transitional coping strategy to find that meaning, to feel like she is making a difference for the lives of others, it's to be applauded. It's sad that it comes from a place of grief and loss.
Getting back to this case, lots have tweeted or emailed or such money. This family should be giving this other family money. Does that help? What about a civil suit in this?
Let's face it, Scott, money is not going to replace the lives of 4 kids. I don't know what they'll do in that regard. They're certainly welcome to do that. It's a way of bringing more shame and punishment. It's a way of coping and covering one's bills, I suppose. And it just isn't really the answer for those who do get these large settlements. I don't know that at the end of it, there's still a sense of satisfaction because you're still always dealing with the law.
Gary Dierenfeld has been with us, social worker, yoursocialworker.com to find out more. Gary, as always, thanks for the insight. Much appreciated.